tonight, what we would like to discuss is the proposal that was put together by Mr. Redcamp, which would keep the ninth graders at least for 1 year at the junior high and leave the two middle schools with their boundaries intact as 7th and 8th grade. We understand that there may be concerns about the boundaries once the year is up, and the high school boundaries. A lot of people have voiced comments about having the high school boundaries set at the same time the middle school boundaries are set. Those are going to be addressed by the school board in September, hopefully in the fall, or at least it will start being looked at in the fall. Therefore, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns about those boundaries, I would advise them to put it in writing and hand it to the board. All the information that we had received from the prior two meetings concerning the committee's boundary proposal will all be incorporated, and they will all be looked at again once the boundaries are reopened. But tonight, we're really only concentrating on next year, which will be totally 9th grade at the junior high, or I guess it's called Penndale now since we changed the name, and 7th and 8th at the two middle schools. And that's what we're going to be addressing. Right now, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Venema, who will give a synopsis of what the proposal incurs.
Carmen has pretty much explained what the plan involves, and it really calls for no boundary changes for the 1994-95 school year, meaning that all those students who currently attend Pembroke in grades 6 and 7 remain there for the 94-95 school year in grades 7 and 8. The same thing would apply to those students who attend Pembroke. There may be some special programs that might have to move, but for the most part, all of our student bodies remain intact in those schools. The same thing applies for those students currently in 8th grade, entering 9th, will remain at Penndale for next year. We do have some enrollment estimates based on what the Pennsylvania Economy is projecting. We're looking at 937 students in the projected enrollment at Pembroke, 898 students projected for Penfield, and 925 students projected in 9th grade at Penndale. At this point, we'll be happy to hear any comments or answer any questions you might have. We'd ask that you please come up to the microphone. We are taping comments this evening, so that those board members who are not able to attend will be able to hear the comments that are made this evening. So first come, first served, and then we'd like to ask questions or raise comments.
Now, Michelle. Jane?
Hearing none, I think that we're done.
Oh,
early.
yeah.
And I would suggest that we put it on the agenda for.
Is it, wait, let's, Deb, has everybody feel comfortable and no one has any questions concerning any of the 1 year that we're doing with this 9th grade? Let's go once, thank you.
Well, I expect that the requirement to come to the microphones probably put a bit of a muffle on those of us not used to public speaking.
Oh, well, it's only so that we can all hear you and so that the television, the cameras can also record it because of the mechanism, so.
Not to mention shyness in front of a TV camera.
Well, it's only for the school board, so I mean, we're not going to be publicizing it on ABC, but I certainly, does anybody have any comments at all?
If you feel uncomfortable and you'd like to ask a question, ask it and we'll repeat it so that it can be heard by board members. If you feel more comfortable that way.
Yeah.
What is it, 8th, 7th, and 8th? How will the sports be for that? Will it be the same as it would have been if you had changed from 7, 8, 9? But will be 7, 8 grade B?
I'll explain that. What it would mean for next year is that we would have those students in Pembroke in 7th and 8th grade and in Penfield would compete on teams at those buildings, and there would be one team for each of those activities for what we call the 8th grade or the middle school league, and that would essentially be the same sports and activities that we listed in our original presentation, so the sports would be the same. Instead of there being a separate 9th grade league there, obviously that would occur. and Dale, all of the ninth grade students will compete 4 spots on teams in the ninth grade and will compete in what is known as the freshman league in ninth grade. The original plan called for us to have 7th and 8th grade teams, a 7th, 8th grade team in each of the schools, and a 9th grade team in each of the schools. That won't occur until we finally become the 79 organization matter.
Could there be, like, say that for football, would there be anything at Penn, I feel like 7 and 8, and they'll have the team that involves both those grades?
The 8th grade league it covers 7th and 8th graders.
In the 7th and 8th grade middle school leagues, we would have boys baseball, boys and girls basketball, cheerleading, of course, field hockey, football, girls lacrosse, boys soccer, girls softball, track, and wrestling.
And then we compete like they have at the present junior high with other schools that are 7th, 8th grade
Exactly.
league.
Many of the middle schools are organized in a 6, 7, 8 configuration. That's not possible in the plan we have set in motion. So any of those schools that have 6, 7, 8 schools allow 7th and 8th graders to participate in those leagues. Those are the schools that we compete against, most of them quite locally here.
I was kidding about shyness.
We can see that.
Who would have your name, please?
I'm John Mack. A couple of questions, I guess, first. What is the best guess now as to when there will be 2 high schools?
The plan for opening our second high school is in the fall of 1997. September 97.
Check my math. Does that mean the 9th graders would be split in their senior year of high school?
I think it's the 8th grade class would be the seniors. The current 8th graders next year
Will
will
be the seniors. That's it.
Thank you.
Becky?
I just want to say that, Montgomery Township, this is a good plan for this coming year, Ralph, and I congratulate you, and I congratulate the administration and the board for coming up with it in such short order. As a parent of an 8th grader, having talked to them, I know they're pleased that they're not going to be split into 3 schools next year, just for 1 year, and then put back together again for high school. So you have their support, I think. I just have one request, and that is I wonder if the parents of the Penndale students next year, the 9th graders, could be provided in the fall with a presentation, perhaps at back-to-school night, in detail on what the construction activities are that are going to be taking place in the building during the year while the kids are in there, and exactly what the impacts are going to be of those activities on the academics, the athletics, and the extracurricular activities. Now, I understand you don't have that information right now because you're going to be rewriting this in light of the fact that you can do more in the building. But I think it's only fair to the parents, and I think it would clear up an awful lot of confusion next year and maybe prevent some, rumors coming home that, oh, this is happening or that is happening or whatever. We would really appreciate it if you could give us as much information of that type at the beginning of next year as possible.
I think that's a very good suggestion, and certainly one of the things that we would intend to do would give update reports on that, because I'm sure people will be wondering what's going to be happening next, especially with all of the renovations going to be happening.
Right. I mean, we understand there's going to be an impact, but for instance, like if the auditorium is going to be out of commission for 4 months, does that mean there won't be a play? Things like that. So,
I think
thanks a lot.
also it's important, and I know Art will be up on this, is if any rooms are being changed or anything of that nature. Obviously, you'll know what the rumor mill is like too, so the more information we give to the parents, the better we're going to be. And I know, Art will have a detailed plan as best as he can. One thing though that we have to keep in mind as we're doing the renovations, given the ability to do it quicker, the schedule may be accelerated. So what may be this month's project may end up being this month's project, just half of this month's project, and another project might come along and things get accelerated or things get slowed down. So that leeway has to be given to Art's department so that he knows.
Certainly, I mean, as a former construction lawyer, I know how these things are. They never go the way you plan them, but I think if we just have an idea of what are the major kinds of activities, what areas of the building are to be shut down, how much at any one time, you're going to alleviate an awful lot of concern if you do that.
We'll definitely do that then.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm popular, and I'm a good student this year. I'd like to thank you for not splitting us up for ninth grade and putting us in 3 different schools. I can safely say that for the entire 3 classes this year. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? No, this is a record short meeting. We'd like to thank you all for coming out. Please keep in mind that come fall, we will be redressing what the boundaries are going to be. This is a short-term gap, and please come out and give us all the input that you would like for both the high school and the middle school, since both of them will be looked at the same time. Yes.
Just a quick question. When you regroup next year, how are you gonna have the same people on the same committee?
Oh, I doubt it.
Okay.
I
They
don't think
wouldn't
I'm
do
gonna
it again. Okay.
No, I'm just joking. I don't know. There has been some concern about committees and they're doing boundaries. You know, the board will have to address it and decide what they want to do, whether they want to form a new committee, whether they want to do it with the administration, any number of things, but definitely a decision should be made in no later than October so that we can start formulating the information.
So if we want to know some of the thoughts that are going on beforehand, will there be a way to find out or to voice, obviously we voiced our opinions a lot
I think
before.
before the committee goes to start their work this time, there'll be a discussion of what the ground rules are, and what their objectives is before they start, however it starts. And there will be, I would expect by the fall, there will be an opportunity for people to say, here, we think here's what the guidelines should be going in. And then everybody gets a chance to comment once you see where the lines are
It's a
going.
shame to do it after people have done so much work and put their hearts and souls into it, and then you come out and you feel like you're personally attacking a group because you have a different opinion. It's much easier to do it before the group formulates. So that, a lot of people said to me, oh, well, we heard from so many of this and so many of that, and I didn't personally know to even do that or get a contact.
Well, I can speak for the committee, and they did not feel that they were being
Right.
attacked or
But I mean,
anything
you
of
feel
that
that
nature.
way, like.
No, I don't
No,
think,
I mean-
oh, you feel like you're
Right,
attacking them.
yeah.
No, they felt fine. Obviously, their concern is our concern to make sure that the transition is as best as possible. And this one-year plan certainly solves a concern of all of us on the committee and apparently a lot of us on the board also, that construction with 1,300 children in a school it can be disruptive. I mean, it is doable and we had all confidence in Art, but on the other hand, if we can make it easier for him, we certainly would like to do that. There will definitely be an item on the agenda when this boundary gets discussed, and everybody will be informed of it. The guidelines will be discussed as was recommended before, and there will be all kinds of input and people's names, phone numbers, and as many people as you want to call and all. But seriously, I would like if everybody who has a plan, who have umpteen number of maps, to sit down, formulate some information. Certainly there's PEL studies, that people have copies of, and they know how many children are in their schools and such. And to look at it and to put it in writing, because it's going to be helpful to all of us to be able to look at a map rather than to a verbal presentation. So anything in writing works a lot easier for a committee or for whoever looks at it again.
Are those studies available here if we wanted to sit down with those numbers? Because I know as just a person living in a neighborhood, I had no idea where the numbers were and the growth and anything like that. So I can come up with an idea, but who knew if it was gonna work or not.
We would have that data available for people that like this.
Yes, sir.
Perhaps you might entertain preliminary to formal committee meetings, informal workshop for those people who would be interested in getting the facts first so that they can go home and do their thinking.
We can look into that, certainly.
Roundtable.
When it gets put on the agenda, we can discuss that as one of the ways that we can work this out. My main concern personally is that we do not delay this, because now it's the end of March, middle of March, and certainly it's made it very, very difficult for Dr. Vanema to get staffing and things of that nature. So if everybody in the community can make sure that the board members know that they would like to see something started in October, it would make things a little easier personally.
I'd like to make one comment about your point about the committee. The committee knew in advance that everyone wasn't going to agree with the plan.
Right.
And of course, we talked about that at length, trying to anticipate questions and concerns that came up.
But
So they were not
it's nicer
unprepared.
to know that you can sort of say something to somebody and while they're thinking about it instead of once they've worked a lot at it.
When you do the staffing, could you see if you could put a person for drama at Penfield? It's been 3 years since they've had a production there, and there's nothing that anyone, that I know, I've talked to the principal there, and they have a beautiful performance they put on at Pembroke every year, and they do it at the junior high, and there's been nothing there, and it doesn't seem like it's there. So maybe when you keep that in mind when you do your staffing, that you put someone there, you would.
We need to think of that need and that interest as well as many, many others. So we need, it's certainly part of our thinking as we determine which staff are going where.
Who do you even, like, I've talked to the principal, but I wasn't really sure who to complain to about that they didn't do that, other than her, because they keep telling me, well, there was no one here that would do it. And it just somehow it doesn't seem right, because you're trying to make all the programs in the schools the same, but they're really not, especially in that area. That's one area where it's not equal.
I'm sure Dr. Vanema will look at that.
You're speaking to the right person.
Well, thank you all, and good night.
I'm sure that.
Sorry, June, little late, June.